I think this video is really important because I want us as clinicians to be able to support young people in crisis, young people with autism in crisis in the best way that we can do. Thinking about our practice and making sure we adjust our practice so that we can work and support young people and their carers.
Everybody in the community needs to have an awareness about people with autism and be able to make reasonable adjustments for that person.
Try and get the right support for these young people and make an environment that we can do our jobs to the best of our abilities.
Crisis can mean lots of different things for different people. It can be that moment where emotions are so raised and difficult to manage that you need that outside help, that someone else to be there to support you, to maybe to keep you safe, maybe just to be alongside you in that moment, because you're finding it that difficult yourself to manage and understand what's going on and process things.
It can be different for everybody, and it gets to a point where the young person or their family are very worried about their safety or their well-being.
And I think it's important to remember that families are going through the crisis as well, not just the young person. Communication strategies are different for everyone, whether we have neurodevelopmental needs or not. Sometimes what can be really helpful as a clinician is actually speaking to a family member or a carer first. It's not always appropriate, but sometimes that can be really useful in actually having an understanding of that person's needs.
It's essential that we listen to parents and carers because they're with the child 24 hours a day. We come in and out. We have that short period of input. They are the experts in that young person. They know what makes them tick, what helps them feel calm, what makes things really difficult for them. So it's vital that we listen to carers and to young people as well, because they're the people who can tell us what to do. And listening to that and using our knowledge and skills, we're working alongside these young people and these parents to make things better for them both.
So we work together with families and young people, find out, what the young person likes, what they don't like, how different are they from their usual selves, what's happened.
Things that can also be useful are hospital passports that can be used in various settings. They might give some insight into that young person, how they best communicate.
It's really important to adjust how we communicate with the autistic people when we meet them, to think about the language we use, the environment that we're in as well, that the young person is in, to make sure we can adjust and support them and enable them to be able to communicate with you and you be able to communicate with them as well.
Language needs to be clear and concise.
Things like sarcasm doesn't come across, you might end up offending someone. Not using things that can be interpreted in different ways.
Euphemisms such as raining cats and dogs, because that can be really confusing, because where are the cats and dogs? It's not raining like that at all.
I mean, some people love a bit of humour and a bit of banter, other people not so much, so you've just got to gauge the person really.
So thinking about your language and also making sure, checking with the young person that you're understanding what they're saying and they're understanding you as well.
Can you tell me that you understand that? Can you tell me what I've just told you in your own words? Sometimes that might be, actually they've not quite understood that and they've taken something that I've said in a different way to what I initially thought they would. So that can be important to make sure that they've totally understood the situation and you're on the same page. Think about how you're actually giving someone a question, and is that going to translate in the same way that you mean it to translate?
Maybe even giving someone those questions in advance so they've got some time to prepare. They may be read through the questions you might be talking about in that session so that that young person can think that is what, maybe even write stuff down before they come to the session. So normally in sessions you might sit opposite somebody, but eye contact can be quite challenging for autistic people. So it might be you sit alongside somebody. It might be you focus on something together. It might be that you use some cards or some drawing or some writing to help aid that communication.
Environment is massive, and I would say often is the reason why people present in crisis, whether that's at home or at school.
There might be some big change you need to think about, maybe thinking about the colours of the walls, which might need some expenses, maybe thinking about lighting that you can dim or some indirect lighting or something like that. But it might be some more straightforward stuff, some easy wins that we can use, things like having that time to prepare, maybe using equipment, maybe like things like headphones, ear defenders, things like that, particularly in a noisy waiting room. Do you wear perfume or deodorants? Those smells can often be quite triggering and difficult for autistic young people. I'm conscious that I meet people often in an A&E environment, which is chaotic and noisy and very difficult for autistic people. It might be simple things like allowing the person to go and wait in the car rather than being in the waiting room, and then having a system where you can bring somebody back into the waiting room for those appointments. Keeping consistency as well. So if you're saying you're meeting someone at 2:10, you're meeting someone at 2:10 and not at 2:15. That sort of thing is important.
I've had it with my son where he's had an appointment and the clinicians run 15 minutes over, and by that point he's in meltdown mode and will not go in.
Being mindful that routines and rituals can impact on people's ability to engage in sessions. So being mindful about, is a particular routine that they like, maybe around lunch or around transitions in and out of school.
If school is a massive trigger for the young person, don't see them at the end of the school day. See them prior to going into school. We want the best out of the young person, and if you see them when they're completely dysregulated, that's not going to be helpful for you or them to actually gain that clinical understanding of what's going on. I think it's really important to validate parents' feelings. Consider this when you're putting sort of treatment plans together and safety plans and how we move forward. If a young person's support system is burnt out, then it's not going to be conducive to what we want to do. So we need to make sure that the right support is there for them overall, and if they feel they need something, then we should be considering that in order to support the young person.
My advice for a meltdown or a shutdown would be to allow the person time, because quite often we're busy, aren't we, as clinicians? We want to do this and do that, and there might be lots of people waiting.
That young person is in fight or flight mode. They're already, really, really dysregulated, and the last thing you want to do is push them over the edge further.
I think the first thing is for you to be in a calm place, because if you're not in a calm place, then how are you going to be able to support that person to come into a calm place? So you being calm, using a calm, steady voice, not asking lots of things all at once, because that can cause escalation and distress.
Give them space, communicate clearly, give them options, 3 options of what we can do to help you.
It might well be with de-escalation thinking about who does that person know well? Who can they engage with? It might be a family member, it might be someone they're particularly close to, or a therapist or a professional they know particularly well, that they can really click with. Maybe thinking about something that they really enjoy or have a clear focus on. It could be trains, it could be colours, it could be animals, but you're thinking about those things that a young person has a focus on and enjoyment for, and using those around that young person who know them well, and getting information from them as to what will be helpful for that young person to bring them into that place where they can feel a little bit calmer.
Thinking about somebody won't communicate or somebody's not engaging, all those kind of words, they're not true actually when you've got the time and the knowledge to be able to do a bit more digging and exploring.
The message I would like all the clinicians to take from this video is be an advocate. So I would say we need to make adjustments where we can. Sometimes it's not always possible. It is important to the young person and to families as well.
I say this to my colleagues in the crisis, and if we're not in a place where we can emotionally be calm and be there as a support, then we're really not a support. We need to have that a little bit of space ourselves, whether that's a parent or whether that's a professional, so that we can then support that young person who really is struggling with their emotions and how they're feeling. Hopefully it gets to the point where those crises become less often and less difficult as well. Our aim is to do that.